Hi, everybody. Jocelyn Florence, astrologer, and welcome. I am here today to talk to you about the chart of the Irish state. And I am using the chart of 1949, the 18th of April at 004 a.m. So to begin with a very brief bit of technical stuff, I've found quite a few different charts and dates which represent the birth of Ireland. Now I'm using this chart, which is for Monday, the 18th of April. And this is when 1949, which is when the Irish state was officially declared. And this was by a 21 gun salute on O'Connell Bridge. Now, this was meant to happen at midnight, but it was delayed by 3.5 minutes because the crowd surged forward and broke through the barriers around the guns. So I used the time as 004 a.m. and it took me a while to realize the significance of this. And this timing actually places Eris, the agent of chaos, right on the IC. Now I've got this right at the base of the chart, which is here. There. Now, Eris, she is fascinating. She signifies, well, the IC at the base of the chart here, it signifies the very roots of the country. Now, I know it's because we've got the midheaven up here. Now the roots, and this really works because that unruly crowd, and with a history also, because Eris works her magic through disruption and rebellion. So she brings chaos and discord in order that we may transform. She's the rebel, the inner wild woman who shows no fear in the face of danger and leads from within. Um, Her mission is to bring light into the dark corners of society and pave the way for change. So this is very much the rebellion at the base of this chart and at the heart of this society. Here at the IC, the very roots of the Irish state, she speaks of both that history of rebellion, but also of an ongoing battle, an ongoing need to dig deep and uncover the past, and so bring freedom, justice, and clarity into the future. So let's jump now into the nodes. This is the south node here, these horseshoe-shaped things, and here's the north node. And they represent ongoing karma. Now the north node is like our positive way forward, and the south node is our past, and that which must be transformed. So let's start with the south node here. And this incredibly powerful stellium in Aries. Now, a stellium is when we have more than 5 planets in a sign here, yeah? And it really emphasizes that Aries energetic. And of course, Aries is the warrior, and they're all in the house here, the fifth house of Leo, the king. So when we've got the warrior and the king both together, and the north node, we've also got the sun and Mars. This point really signifies what I'm going to call the true leaders of the country. So we've got the sun, we've got Mars. Excuse me, I couldn't see that. We've got the sun and we've got Mars here, in his home sign of Aries, where he's very comfortable. So, and conjunct the North Node. This is the place of destiny, but it's also the place of success. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the phrase "the Fighting Irish." Now I'm not particularly into boxing myself, but off the top of my head, I can instantly name 4 famous Irish boxers: Barry McGuigan, Conor McGregor, Kelly Harrington, and Katie Taylor. So, if you'll excuse the pun, Ireland has really punched above its weight in terms of world famous fighters that come from this very tiny little island. So this is this stellium in Aries, and of course we've got both the male and the female warrior within the stellium, and of course the north node of destiny and success. So now equally here on the other side of the node there, we've got the sun conjunct Venus. Again, in the fifth house, it's the Leo, the king, but it's also the house of creativity, music, and inspiration. And my goodness, again, has Ireland produced so many incredibly world famous creatives. I mean, Leo is that charismatic leader who thrives on stage at the front of the crowd. Christy Moore, Mary Black, Sinead O'Connor. I know she didn't thrive so much, but bless her. What an incredible creative. Bono, Bob Geldof. Like I could just go on and on and on, couldn't I, really? And then, of course, also conjunct the North Node, although slightly out of sign, we have Mercury. And he's just moved into Taurus. 2 degrees of Taurus there. And Taurus rules the throat, singing, poetry, the gift of the gab, the silver tongue. And again, this is an energetic that's so strong that we even have a legend and a ritual, excuse me, around that. I mean, if anyone ever heard of Blarney and kissing a Blarney stone? Um, and yet again, this incredible plethora of talent just rolls off the tongue. Yeats, Seamus Heaney, James Joyce, Oscar Wilde, on and on, wow, 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 wow. So this really confirms that I'm on the right track with this chart. So having looked at the North Node, we're going to now go jump into the South. And if the North Node represents the future, the way forward, the South Node represents the past, and that much which must be resolved. And we always angle this slightly negatively. And here in the 11th house, we have issues around collective belief and groupthink. And the big challenge here is Neptune. Lord of spirituality and organized religion, behaving at his worst. And in his negative aspect, he rules loss. Loss through illusion, fog, confusion, and sleight of hand. Neptune also rules the media, Hollywood. It's that absolute glamour. And it could really indicate a people who could be quite naive and almost gullible and open to manipulation through religion and media. So now we're going to jump down into the ascendant, the I am, the first house. So this represents the identity of the country and how it's seen by the world. And we've got this beautiful Sagittarius ascendant, unfortunately conjuncted by Chiron, the wounded healer. But now Sagittarius represents the traveler, the philosopher, and the teacher. There's something about that Sagittarius ascendant, which is just great crack, having a laugh, getting together and having a sing song, which so and so many Irish people have travelled. They've gone to left to populate the world. But of course, with Chiron there is a wound about this. Um, but- and of course, the wound about the identity, and of course, this goes back to the famine, which was the cause of the first exodus, and it's still happening today, and we call it the brain drain. So the young are still leaving. And opposite to Chiron here, we have Juno. And Juno, this is the seventh house. This is all about the house of outside influences. And Juno here is all about who controls the children. And in Gemini, we control them through the information we give them. The old Jesuit maxim, give me a child for the first 7 years and I'll give you the man. Still very current. So still over here in the first house of identity, we have this beautiful moon Vesta conjunction, and the moon represents the people as well as the women in this chart. Now, the moon has these two very interesting aspects. One hugely positive, this beautiful grand trine, yeah, and one far more challenging. And again, the challenging one is to do with outside influences, yeah. So let's begin with this challenge, the opposition to Pele, the wise woman, and Uranus. And these make a T-square with Black Moon Lilith. Yeah. So what we have here is one, two, three, four incredibly powerful female archetypes, each one of which has been demoted. And they're also equally, they're all at the ending or beginning of their signs. And these are called the critical degrees. And this means that there's something essential, critical, that is about turning these about revisioning the role and the status of women within the state. And then they become magical and they work really, really well. Yeah. Now the moon and Vesta here, opposed by Palais over here in the seventh house. These are very powerful forces at play. Let me tell you Vesta's story. Um, um, let let's go back here. Let's stick with the moon Vesta because they're really, really interesting, yeah. And I wasn't surprised to find her in such a prominent position in the Irish chart simply because I've lived most of my life here since the 80s. I read a large number of charts, and a large number of the women particular have this incredibly beautiful and strong Vesta. And a powerful Vesta really indicates this very gentle wisdom. It's like an inner wisdom. It comes from time spent at the hearth with a grandmother, listening to their stories, absorbing that really gentle, grounded wisdom, which only comes with age and experience. Vesta's the hearth fire. In ancient times, a mother's daughter, she'd take the burning coal from the fire, from her mother's hearth when she left, and she'd wrap it up all safe, and then she'd take it to her own fire and start the fire at the center of her home. So she really represents this continuity of ancient wisdom. Now, her legend is this: in the ancient time, the 12 Vestas were committed to no man. Instead, if they perceived a man out of balance, they would use their sacred sexuality to calm and restore that human. And the Vestas, like they're the origin of the virgin birth story. So each solstice, the 12 Vestas would enter into a dark cave, into the sacred womb of the goddess, and they would consort with the 12 king's men. And from this coupling, this virgin birth, because nobody knew who the parents were, the new Sun King would be chosen. And in time, the Vestas were demoted. Most people have heard of the Vestal Virgins, who lived in the temple in Rome, honored as long as they stayed within their very strict rules of the patriarchy, and punished dreadfully if they weren't. You know, the Vesta eventually morphed into the nun archetype, and again, such a strong force within Irish society, yet cut off from her true source of power, controlled and manipulated by others, because this is all about that sexual fire, that Kundalini energy which resides at the base of the spine. And again, here I always think of Mary Magdalene. My understanding is that she was trained in the Temple of Isis, and there she learned the sacred sexual arts, and so she got called a whore. Um, so it's really, really about transforming that energy from that, I'm going to say, manipulation from powerful outside forces here, Uranus and Vesta. I mean, Uranus is the higher mind. Sorry, Uranus and Vesta. Um, Uranus and Palais Athena, and outside forces. Mm. So now I'm going to go down into the square with Lilith. So equally here, very challenged, and Lilith is actually at 29 degree Pisces, not zero. So she's really at the ending and in at that really critical point of transformation. And it's really interesting because she kind of repeats in many ways the story of Vesta. So I'll tell you in her story. Once upon a time, God made all the animals two by two. And he made Adam and he made Lilith, and they were very happy together in the Garden of Eden for many eons until one day, there they are making love, and Adam's on top yet again. So Lilith says, hey Adam, it's my turn." And Adam said, "Oh, no, 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 I am the man. I should always be on top." And Lilith said, "No, I'm as good as you. I'm made from God's earth." So Adam went to God and complained, and poor Lilith got thrown out of the Garden of Eden. So this really repeats that story of sexual repression and denial of what is the instinctive wild within. This is like an internal knowledge, um, that comes from an awareness of and a connection with nature and the natural. Lilith is in the fourth house of again, the very core foundations of the country. She's at that very critical magical degree of 29, where at her worst, her power is held in check by religious forces from the past. But she also equally holds this incredible potential for new beginnings, not only because she's conjunct, well, pretty much conjunct 0 degrees Aries when she moves on. This is the world access point, the point where everything begins anew. But we've also got that symbol of absolute luck, delight, and happiness, right there on the world axis point, the part of fortune. So this tells me that the more that the people of Ireland connect with the feminine, with the earth and the natural rhythms, the more they recognize them and restore them, the happier and more successful this people will be. I would say that probably of most people's, but then that's just my perspective. Um, so this place here, let's jump here now to, oh, okay. So let's just have a little word about Eris here. Now, this spot here, I'm just going to go back to the IC because again, this represents the past, the ancestors, and the roots, and the very foundation and the heritage of the country. And with Eris here, I just want to say, in her lower aspect, and we spoke briefly about this, when she's not respected, she creates chaos. But in her higher aspect, she is the warrior for truth, justice, and clarity. Now, because she was only discovered in 2005, it's like since that time, we're learning how to work with her. And this indicates that since her discovery, the women are no longer so easily confused. They're far more able to stand up for themselves. It's like there's an archetype there. Eris represents our soul purpose and our connection with the roots of the country. And again, this suggests a story of female repression and exclusion, which is in the process of being turned around. And this transformation is key to the basic and fundamental harmony of the country. So we have these incredibly powerful, yet incredibly wounded feminine archetypes repeated again and again within this chart. Now, and this chart also contains two yods. Now, this is called the finger of God aspect and points to just a really particular destiny. Now, let's begin with the yod to Jupiter. Let me see if I can just get that. Go like that. And now if I click on Jupiter, yeah, we can see that yod. So, and the yod is from. Okay, let's go through it. Firstly, what Jupiter rules. Now, Lord Jupiter, he rules religious and financial institutions. He also rules this house, what we believe. Yeah. So here at the top of the yod, he covers what we believe to be true and also therefore what we see to be possible. Top of the yod, he's going to work at his worst until he becomes unbearable, at which point we're forced to transform and transform what we believe to be possible. And then we can transform the system. So it's all about, again, it's all about, excuse me, outside forces telling us what to believe. And up, excuse me, and up here, also in a yod, let me see if I can get that. Haha, we have Saturn. Very, very much behaving at his worst because not only is he at the top of a yod, he's also at that critical / magical degree of 29 degrees. And he's in Leo and he's in retrograde. Let's pick that apart. Now, Saturn in the mundane chart represents political leaders, those in a position of authority in the country, but also he represents the law and he can represent national tragedy. So that will be actually caused by these leaders. And these leaders are very, very arrogant. This is 29 degrees Leo. The king at his extreme, he's absolute worst, and he is so self-centered. He doesn't see anyone else, yeah? And he's retrograde. He's all about himself. Now, in the mundane, he represents these political leaders and those in a position of authority. He's hardworking, but he's also very much a loner who's out to get what he can for himself. Brown Envelope Brigade comes to mind. Blank Jack Bertie. And this impact filters down through the authority figures throughout the country. However, this yod does really insist that things must turn around. And I'd just like to point out that there is equally this beautiful grand trine between the moon and Vesta, and the what we've got here is the Sun and Venus. So this really says that even though Saturn's behaving at his very worst, there's still this sort of workable harmony that can be found, yeah? But equally, this indicates that there will be a powerful and sudden turnaround. Now, and going through the transits to election day, which is really in the next video, and it's fascinating because there's also a yod to Saturn in the chart of the election, so quite fascinating. So lastly here, I want to look at Pluto conjunct Ceres and Haumea, yeah? There we have beautiful Pluto. Now, this is absolutely hugely significant and transformational because all these guys, Ceres is the goddess of motherhood and the harvest, and Pluto and Haumea both rule endings, transformation, and rebirth. And really, this is the rebirth of the Sacred Mother. And these guys, they're all in the house of religion, spirituality, and what we collectively believe in, what it is we believe in, yeah? What we have learned and what we've been told. Now, Ceres and Pluto are intimately connected by legend. And once again, we have this theme of who controls the children. So let's give you Ceres legend. She gave birth to a beautiful daughter, Persephone, her best friend and the most important person in her life. And they were closest of closest, bestie of besties. But as Persephone grew, she became incredibly beautiful, and all the gods began to desire her. So Ceres tried to never leave her on her own. However, needs must. So one day, poor Persephone found herself all on her own in the Elysian fields. Now, Lord Pluto spotted her there from his underworld, and so he cracked open the earth, and he came up and he grabbed her and he took her down into his lair. Now, when Ceres returned, she was absolutely distraught to find her daughter missing. And she looked everywhere. She could not find her. And eventually she withdrew her gifts from humanity. And of course, she is the goddess of the harvest. So there was no food. So after 3 years, poor humanity was starving. And Apollo, Lord of the gods, looked down and took pity on them. And so he sent his messenger, Hermes, to intervene and see if Pluto would release Persephone. After a bit of negotiation, there, good old Hermes got Pluto to agree. Now, Persephone and the underworld, she'd been super clever, and she'd neither eaten nor drink because she knew that it would tie her to Pluto and the underworld. But clever Lord Pluto, when he told her that she was going to return and see her mother, he offered her a bowl of pomegranate seeds, and in her joy and relief, she just unthinkingly ate four. So when she was reunited with her mother, Ceres asked, "Did you eat or drink when you were down in the underworld?" And Ceres said, "No, no, naught but four pomegranate seeds." And Ceres was once again distraught because she knew that this would tie her daughter to the underworld. So for 4 months every year, we have winter. So Ceres is the mother, and Lord Pluto is all about power and control through what we believe. Now, the ultimate mother is, of course, Mary, Mother of God, and she's always held such a special place in the country of Ireland. We have these beautiful statues of Mary all over the place. Excuse me, often associated with a holy well or a sacred site. So the power of this mother symbol really holds a very sacred space in the heart of the country's beliefs. But wherever we have Pluto, there's some deep and dark pain, which requires transformation. And as in legend, it's all about who controls the children, the Magdalene laundries, the mother and baby homes. And people literally took their children. You control them. Pluto's retrograde, making it very hard to speak the truth as well. However, we've been through this. Courageous leaders have spoken out. The underworld has been exposed and it is transforming. The women are undoubtedly taking their power. Which kind of brings us on to the next level, which is how Mia also up here conjunct Pluto and Ceres. Really interesting. And like she holds the energy of both Pluto and Ceres, but in this much, much higher octave, yeah. In that she works in the realm of the energetic and the quantum. Her similarity as Ceres is that she too is a mother goddess, creator goddess of the Hawaiian Islands, and she can give birth from any part of her body. And she too dies and is reborn every time she gives birth. So that's her similarity to Pluto. She's got that phoenix energetic about her. She's the female shaman. Now, her role is that of purifying the sacred space, creating sacred space for ceremony. She sweeps the energy clear, and then she calls in the four directions and the gods and the goddesses, and she creates the space for divine connection. So she's able to, at that point, she's able to see the web within the quantum, and she can pull the webs together, tying the threads and creating knots of potential. And this is all about ceremony. Haumea was discovered in 2005, and as such, she's energetic we're still all learning about. However, so close to Pluto and Ceres, she very much suggests like a whole new level of comprehension and empowerment that is available. Haumea speaks to us of combining ancient shamanic practice with this more scientific approach, but also the strength and power of belief, of prayer, and very much of ceremony to open doors to transformation, especially for the women, but for the country as a whole. And I think this is a level we're beginning to comprehend and step into because the old ceremonial ways are largely past. You know, there's the swinging of the frankincense and different level of ceremony. So that is it. I very much hope you enjoyed my take on the Irish state. My next video will be on the transits that are coming on election day, which is looking super exciting with a yod, woohoo, 29th of November 2024. Now, I'd very much appreciate any feedback or comments you have. Please leave them below. Please be super gentle. My first take on a mundane chart. I really, really enjoyed it, and I hope you have too. And I hope I would to see you in the next video about the election day. So take care, blessings, and see you soon.